Hi, my name is Ethan Roseman, or ETHTech, FTech. I am a software engineer who has, over the past few years, gotten really into game reverse engineering and decompilation. And I have a website that I made with some of my friends called decomp.me. And for that website, we have a Discord, and there's a lot of people in that Discord that do decompilation and reverse engineering for a variety of different platforms. So I decided to, after attending a cybersecurity conference in Japan, where I live, create my own CTF, capture the flag competition, which this one is kind of a open source intelligence CTF, meaning all of the questions relate to things that you can find on the public internet. So it's not trying to crack into a website or a binary or understand how software works. It's really just answering very obscure trivia about things that are already online. So after doing the event at AV Tokyo this year, I decided I wanted to try to do my own. Um, and I wanted to make it related to games and decomp projects because I wanted to, that's the area of quote unquote expertise I have. And also, I just think that it's going to be kind of different for people who might have done CTFs before. They probably weren't about games, at least not this in depth. So I spent the last month. Whenever I was on voice chat with my friends online, I would be kind of silent working on these questions. The problem with doing one of these things solo is that you have no one to bounce ideas off of and gauge the difficulty of your questions, and the difficulty isn't really known until people just do it. And once they do it, the mystery is gone. So anyone who would test the questions can no longer play the game. And I really wanted all my friends who were interested to be able to play. So I actually only bounced a couple of the questions off of one of my friends who I knew wasn't really interested in doing the event live. But the rest of the questions were completely I had just had no idea how they were going to be perceived, if they would be too easy, too hard. Something about the competition is that I give each question a number of points based on theoretically how difficult it is. So if you get the answer correct, you get this many points. And this is also kind of a big unknown because I didn't know how many points to give different questions. That was also a guessing game. Also, if you hear ambulance in the background, sorry about that. Anyway, as you can see, the event has ended. It ran from Japan time December 20th at 10 a.m. to December 22nd at 10 a.m. It ran for 48 hours. It had a very explosive beginning. Then in the middle, kind of different people woke up at different times, and obviously I have to sleep sometimes, so I would try to read the submissions and make sure I wasn't missing important things about the questions as it went, but I couldn't be staring at it all the time. But I did try to help people and give hints and nudges where appropriate. Okay, I've rambled enough about this without going into detail, so let's do that. So here's some of the challenges. There were 18 in total. 15 are unlocked at the start. At the bottom here, one that isn't unlocked at the start is C, and then Finale, and then up here there's one called Love. So we will go through all of these. I wanted to talk about the statistics for a little bit. So 41 registered users, and of those 41, we had 29 at least answer one question correct, which I think is awesome. I was actually kind of hoping for 20 registered users and 10 participants. So I'm really happy that 30 people, almost 30 people, at least gave this a shot. It's if you've never done one of these, it's a, kind of a big unknown. A lot of the people who did this, English wasn't their first language, or their native language, and I was really impressed with the amount of participation, and yeah. So anyway, of all the challenges, there were 3,500 possible points. As I said before, 18. The one with the most solves was the very first one. That's called Legacy, and I kind of designed that to be a straightforward this should be easy to look up, and this is going to teach you the kinds of problem solving you might have to do on a very basic level. And the one with the least solves was Finale, and I think this was mostly because it was gated behind other questions. As I said before, this one had to be unlocked. Um, yeah, I think this spread is really neat too. So this is the number of users for each like bracket of score distribution. I don't really like that this platform. By the way, I used this platform called CTFD. It's a very common platform for hosting these events. Um, it's open source. They allow you to self-host it, which is what I'm doing. Um, really appreciate everything that the maintainers and contributors of that thing do. Anyway, um, so, but I don't like the way they break up the score here because all my scores were in even 100 increments, and this broke it into like weird subcategories, but or subdivisions. But anyway, it looks like we had the biggest category here was that 6 people got like 400 or 500 points, and then some, four got a little less or a little more than that. But then after that, I find it really interesting and fascinating that and this doesn't seem to go further despite the fact that 3500 is the max. So I'm not, this might be a little inaccurate, but there's a really even score breakdown of most of the other people who participated, which I find really cool. um, this is the solve percentage per challenge. So the ones at the bottom that were more abstract, D and C, didn't have as high solve rates. Love was also gated behind guitar. Windy was pretty difficult. I gave that one 400 points, so I'm glad that that one was indeed as hard as I thought. Palabras wasn't that hard, but you had to either know about a service or look it up. Um, yeah. We had over 2,000 submissions, which is crazy to me. And obviously, a lot of those are going to be incorrect, which is expected. But yeah, it's so cool that so many people were trying to solve these problems. So thank you all again. Okay, scoreboard time. You can see here there's a lot of activity. Now, I think we're only looking at the top 10 ranked people in this graph, but the beginning of the competition, there was a lot of movement. And then different times of day for the next 48 hours, it was kind of more sporadic. Um, this person, someone, 2639, did like a ton of solves right at the end, and I think they actually had the last correct solve of the whole challenge. So congrats to that and climbing up to 7th. That's really cool. Um, I Will Craft was really persevered throughout, and I think it's really cool that they managed to also get the max score eventually. Same with Josh. He was super busy, but he managed to also get all the questions. Um, and yeah, the top 3 here, TWUPF, Widberg, sorry if I'm not pronouncing these names correctly, and Dark Eye. Um, I'm actually not, I think I've talked maybe a tiny bit to these two. I'm not sure. At least I'm familiar with them, but like none of these 3 are my friends. And I think that's awesome because there's a lot of people in here who placed decently well, or who at least, answered some questions who I'm friends with. Um, but it makes me really happy that there were people who I just don't really have much contact with who like jumped into this and did it and placed the top 3. So shout out to all 3 of them. Um, TWUPF in particular, I'm not at all familiar with them. They came in and did the entire thing in a span of, let's see, this says 12:21, 3:48, 12:20, 22:30. It looks like they did the whole thing under 4 hours, which is crazy to me. They said they've done, they like open source intelligence, so that makes sense. But although I'm highlighting the top 3, I do want to mention 5 people got all the questions correct, which is crazy. Like I said before, I was unsure if the questions were too hard or too easy. Um, I have mixed feelings on the fact that some people got them all correct. Like on one hand, I'm happy people cared enough to do that and answer everything, but on the other hand, I kind of wish I had some questions that were so hard no one could get them. But I don't know. Maybe it's better this way. So, okay, let's go through the challenges. I'm going to talk a little bit about for each one how I came up with it, as well as how to solve it if you are just a, not me, a person doing the challenge. So I wanted to start with something very straightforward. So I made a question about my own tool. Um, so yeah, what was Splat's original name? So Splat is a tool I made after working with a tool called N64 Split by QRAM. N64 Split was the tool that assisted in the decompilation of Super Mario 64 originally, and was designed to be a ROM splitting tool that could break N64 ROMs into different components for, decomp, disassembly, reassembly. Um, and I learned a ton from working with it in trying to start the Paper Mario decomp. But I found that it had some kind of hard coded behavior that I wasn't, that wasn't as helpful for other games. And I decided I wanted to try to make my own thing that was like a little more modular and in Python, which is a language I was more comfortable in. So I made Splat, and Splat is now being used by a ton of projects, which I never expected, and I'm very grateful for. Um, so I was hoping people who saw this question at least kind of knew what Splat was, but even if you didn't, hopefully you can still get the answer to this. So Splat, there's a couple ways to figure this out. First of all, the name of the thing is in the README. So if you go to the README and you click history and scroll a ton, you can probably just find a commit. Here's the first commit for the README, and you can see the name here, N64 Splat. So that's the original name. Another way you could get this is if you go to the change log, which we try to maintain. Um, Here you go. So there's the name, N64 Splat. I was naming it this to follow the N64 split convention, but then Splat started being used for non N64 projects as well. So, yeah. So that's that. Then we have process. So process asks in ASM processor, which is a tool that assists in handling the assembly embedded within C files in decompilation projects. What is the commit that added a game-specific hack, basically? So even if you're not familiar with ASM processor, you can probably go and find, let me just look for the word hack. So you can see this. This is a hack to replace all floating point numbers in an array of particular type. And then if you find out when this was made, you can use like git blame. You can see when the flag was added, but actually the flag was not the commit that added the hack. It was a different commit. So you have to kind of do a little more digging, but you'll find the hack. This one was also meant to be pretty straightforward. I'm not gonna do it right now because it actually might take me a couple minutes. I don't remember the answer because it's a git hash, but yeah, a lot of people got this one. Also supposed to be pretty simple, but yeah. I tried to come up with more questions that involved like actually looking at tool repos or Git repos, decomp repos, but it's kind of hard because things change and decomps are very subjective, how things are named and how things are structured. So yeah, but anyway, moving on. Neum. So Neum was kind of my first convoluted one, I guess you'd say. I tried to make this like a multi-step process. So a studious, spectacled character, originally from Paper Mario 64, appears in another game as the host of a certain game mode. There seems to be a signedness error in an item associated with this game mode. What is the Italian name of the item? So first of all, we have to figure out who that is studious and wears glasses, originally from this game, appears in another game as the host of a game mode. And if you're not familiar with Mario Party or sorry about this ad. If you're not familiar with Mario Party or Paper Mario, then this might be a little tricky. But eventually, hopefully, you go to the stars, Mario's helpers, and I'm gonna click Scholar here. So he's a scholar and he's wearing glasses. And if, as you see here in the Mario Wiki, he appears as the guide of Super Dual Mode. So let's click that. And then it mentions that there is a signedness error in an item associated with the mode. Now, once you're looking at the Super Dual Mode article, clearly this mode has a ton of items, and it would be quite daunting to go through and read all of the descriptions and see if there's some sort of inconsistency, although you could do that, and I will show you here that if you look at the Super Wiggler tires, so the Wiggler tires say very slow with good control, speed is -3. Super Wiggler tires say very slow with great traction, speed is +4 though, so that seems a little suspect. And actually, if you just go down all the way to the trivia section of the page, it says the Super Wiggler tires description states that they're very slow, but they're actually tied with da-da-da-da-da. This is presumably a mistake and intended to be -4. So that's where the signedness error comes in. And then the rest of this is just a matter of finding the Italian name of the item. So you can do that by switching to the Italian version of the article, I believe, although that's giving me a 404 right now. But rest assured, there are ways to do that, and you just can Google it and find it. I don't have that pulled up, so I'm just not going to waste the time. Or I just don't know how to solve my own problem. You can make your own decision about that. Okay, so moving on, we have Alien. Yeah, like I said before, I wanted to come up with like GitHub related and decomp project related questions, and one of my ideas was let me find a cool hash and then make a little puzzle out of that. So yeah, a GameCube decomp project on GitHub has a very interesting git hash for one of its commits. The hash's properties, and I specifically call out the first 7 characters because git hashes are technically a lot longer than that. It's a palindrome. That means it's the same backwards and forwards. Its digits consist of only 6 and 9. 9 does not appear multiple times consecutively. A 6 cannot be surrounded by 9s on both sides, and 6 is the first digit. So I thought I was so smart and cool for coming up with these rules because I thought it sounded cryptic and difficult and would lead you to the correct hash. I was a little wrong. It's not that hard to do this, but also there's 2 possible answers here. So once you get one of the 2 answers, you can start searching, but if you have the wrong one, your search won't lead you very far. So yeah, you do have to try both hashes, and the correct one is 6669666, which I just happened to stumble upon this recent commit in the Animal Crossing decomp. And you can, I think, also search this through GitHub search, which is pretty nifty, but I didn't do that. And anyway, once you kind of find it via Google or however, you can see it here, and the commit message is properly aligned AC Lotus palettes. I named the challenge Alien because align, alien, the words are kind of similar. That's really the only reason. I called this one, by the way, I should say why I named these, what I named them. I called this one Legacy because Splat's Legacy was N64 Split, and I originally called it N64 Splat. Called this one Process because it's about ASM processor. Neum because the wheels go fast. And yeah. Okay. Palabras. So this one, palabras means words in Spanish, which is actually clue. Let's look at what it says. A particular service maps the black square on this image to the name of a game currently being decompiled, but missing one letter. What is the name of the game? And this is the image I show you. And all I show you is the house 705, this black square, and then the street name, La Duple. So if you Google that, or rather, if you search that on Google Maps, there's only one that comes up, and it's in Greenville, Illinois. And then if you zoom in here, we know the house number we're looking for, which is 705. You can just kind of go up the street, and here's our house. Now, Google has a thing called plus codes. Some locations have plus codes that are it's just like a shorthand identifier for the location. Um, this uh, this area I don't think gives plus codes, and even if it did, that's not how you do this. Um, your next kind of thing to pay attention to here is a particular service maps the black square on this image to the name of a game being decompiled. So if you don't know the service, my intention was that you could just search it. So literally, if you Google service that maps squares, like locations to words, or rather, I search here service that maps words to places, because we know that this is going to be the name of a game. So we're mapping a word or words to a place, and immediately Google gives you the answer. It's a service called What Three Words, and if we go to that, we can go to La Duple place, scroll up, and we start to see something very similar to our picture that we're given. And it looks like the black square is this one in the corner, where there's this faint edge of this rectangle. So if we click that, the words for this location are Meal Gear Solid. Obviously, if you're at all familiar with the Metal Gear Solid series, this is clearly Metal Gear Solid, and I do mention that it's missing a word. Fun fact, I actually thought this said Metal Gear Solid when I designed it. Then I was showing my question to one of my friends who wasn't going to play in the competition, and she was laughing hysterically that I that I got Meal Gear Solid, and I was so excited that I got a perfect thing, and then it was one letter off. And anyway, I salvaged it. So yeah, that's the answer, Metal Gear Solid. But the thing says Meal Gear Solid, so there's that. Cute. What is the Pokemon scale of Ammonite according to its Pokédex data in Pokemon Emerald? Now, something to remember with this one is that, oh, by the way, this is called Palabras because the service is called What Three Words, and Palabras means words in Spanish. So cute is named cute because I think Ammonite is cute. And the thing to remember with this one is just that this event is not just about games, but also decomps. So people were trying to see how large, like canonically, Ammonite is according to the visual data, the textual data that the Pokédex tells the user. So they were going to like wikis and stuff, and I totally get why you would do that, but that is not there. There's a specific attribute in the Pokemon Emerald, at least in the decomp, called scale for the Pokédex. So if you were to go to the repo, I believe there's a file here that's like Pokédex or something. Let's see. In the data. If you look in the source data and then Pokemon, whoops, here we go, and then Pokédex entries, and if you search Ammonite, you'll see that there is a scale attribute, and it's 521, so that's the answer for cute. Next we have ouch, and ouch is named as such because of the answer, which will be obvious coming up. So the question just asks what's in the center of SBK 53, which you probably don't know what that is. Anyone who hasn't modded Paper Mario wouldn't know what that is, but thankfully it's Googleable. So if you just Google SBK 53, you'll notice that what pops up is stuff about Paper Mario. You might need to switch your language for this, and put it in quotes. But yeah, so then you know it's Paper Mario, and then it's just a matter of figuring out what that is. So if you click the Paper Mario decomp doc reference, you can tell that through some looking around that there's Pokies in here. It's in the desert area, but actually what I intended for people to do was to look at this not the decomp repo, which may sound a little counterintuitive, but to actually look at it in game or in a level viewer. And there's a really cool resource called noclip.website, which allows you to view levels from a variety of games, and that includes Paper Mario. So if we go to Paper Mario and then go down to SBK 63, 53, and zoom out here, we'll see that in the center of SBK 53 is a cactus, and that is the answer. I had to change this question a bit because the level I originally picked was showing there was an item item block in the middle, and I didn't realize that, so I had to change the map mid competition, but people managed to adjust, and I think everything got all sorted. So yeah, that one was a bit finicky though. All right, so we're gonna move into we're gonna jump to guitar for a second because there's a unlockable challenge in games that I want to do next, but first we have to do guitar because that's what unlocks it. So guitar is named as such because the answer is related to a bass catching fishing game, and guitar, bass, bass is just a silly little similar name. So anyway, the hint I give is that some guy with a 4-digit binary domain name also made a fishing game. So 4 digits in binary, there aren't that many combinations, and you could just try all of them. You might also you might also have some ideas in mind. If you did have an idea in mind and search the guy up, there's on his Wikipedia article, there's a mention of his blog. But if you just find the domain, you'll see this Japanese website, Shigesato Itoi. He was a famous guy who also created, I think, or designed the Mother series. So he's definitely pretty well known for that. But he also made a self-titled fishing game for the SNES, and a definitive version was made for the N64. But anyway, the answer to guitar, I believe, is his name, which is just Itoi Shigesato or Shigesato Itoi. I allowed different formats for this one's submission. So there's that. This challenge unlocks love, and love is named as such because the password in question has heart symbols in it. So anyway, the definitive version of the game, referenced in Challenge Guitar, had a tournament held in collaboration with a popular publication. What was the 8-character password needed to enter the tournament? Definitive version indicates that we're talking about the N64 version, and there's a tournament held in collaboration with a popular publication. If we look at the Wikipedia article for the game, we can see that between March 31st and May 31st, 2000, another competition was launched by Nintendo in collaboration with Famitsu to promote the definitive edition of the game. There's a citation, and we can go to this website and translate it. And it mentions to go to the clubhouse and in the game and enter the entry password, which was published in the weekly Famitsu for 4 consecutive weeks, and then also in the monthly Famitsu 64 Plus, May and June, and then monthly Famitsu Bros May. I thought this was going to be a really cool thing to create. If I could figure out the password, I would have such a cool treasure hunt on my hands. So next step was to find the Famitsu magazine. I could not find it anywhere. It turns out these, at least from what I could tell, are not very consistently archived. I'm sure they're archived much better in recent years, but there seemed to be a lot of missing publications, and I thought my search was kind of dead at that point. So I was about to give up, but then I realized that maybe I could just search for the password. So if we go back to the original thing, if we copy the name of the game, let's go to Google Translate. and then we copy the word password from here, which obviously I you wouldn't necessarily know this is the word password, but through some Google Translate shenanigans, you can figure that out. And if we just search this, now the key here is obviously we can't read these search results because we don't speak Japanese probably. So what you can do is just translate the search results as well. And there's this one that says Famitsu tournament entry password. So I got so excited. And okay, sorry about this ad, weird ad. But anyway, if we look at this, page at the Clubhouse event, and let's go back to the original. You can see in it there's like B like bold tags here, so this is probably what was meant for the password, or at least rather this is what contains the password. If you paste this into Google, this says Famitsu heart heart heart, and then there's a note here. So actually, I wanted to let me stop for a second. I wanted to verify that this was the correct password, because if someone found the password a different way, and it turns out this forum poster was just like speaking nonsense, I didn't want to have an incorrect answer. So I got a hold of the game, booted it up, and put in this password to confirm it's correct. But when I was putting in the password, I noticed that it only allows 8 characters. So let's see what this note says. The translation sucks, but it says heart is the guy with the symbol here. I think other translators might do this better, but what it means to say is that whenever he wrote heart, let me go back to Japanese. Whenever he wrote heart, he meant the symbol heart. And in the game password entry system, there is a heart symbol. So it turns out that these 5 characters plus 3 hearts is the password. Obviously, there's different ways to enter a heart symbol on the computer. There's different Unicode characters for it. I noticed after I made this that some people were using the heart emoji, which originally I intentionally did not allow, but then I decided to allow it because it seemed like it's more in the spirit of the thing. They got to the answer. They're just not entering it in the format I was expecting. But I allowed for several different like standard formats as well as the emoji. And yeah, that is the answer. When you enter that in the game, it actually tells you that you are going to start, competing in the tournament. And it was pretty cool that they built that into the game ahead of time and planned this magazine collaboration. Because now this password is left within the game code as kind of a relic, testament to this planned event, and I find stuff like that pretty neat. Shout out to Josh Demand for finding the password through a Nico Nico video, which is a video on the Japanese video sharing website similar to YouTube. They found a video of someone entering the password, and I was more than happy to transcribe it into text from the video, because as far as I'm concerned, they got to the answer, and then when they entered it, they indeed had the correct password. So that was super cool. I did not know there were other ways to get at this password, so I was super impressed with that and happy that it wasn't just this one random guy on the internet who had posted it, and that it at least had one other source. So yeah. So let's go, we're done with the games category now, let's move on to developers. The first one is one of the hardest questions in the whole thing. I'm a big fan of Pokemon Snap. I've done a lot of research into the development of the game, and I really love the music, and so I've done a lot of research into the music and composition, and in doing that research, I came across the composer, her like website / blog, which she shared so much information about her passions, her views. It's really cool to just get a window into a stranger's life like this. And the website is off the internet now, but it is available on archive.org, so you can still find it, which is what you have to do to solve this challenge. So yeah, the composer for Pokemon Snap once visited Chicago on a business trip and had an unpleasant time. When did she go? So if you find her name, you can find that pretty simply. It's Ikuko Mimori. Um, and there's some wikis that have information about composers. This looks like a video game music. I don't know what PF stands for, but some sort of wiki for video game music. Maybe portfolio. But anyway, um, yeah, there's a lot of cool information on all of her work here. But then at the bottom there is a link um, to a website, and if you click this, it doesn't load, or it looks like it loads, but okay, now we're getting like some sort of landing page for the ISP that this used to be hosted on. So what you can do is go to the internetarchive.org's Wayback Machine, which is a service that routinely scrapes the internet and just archives the pages that it comes across. And thankfully, this composer's website was archived, and so that's how we're going to find the answer to this challenge. So using the Wayback Machine, we're able to actually get access to this old website and learn a lot about this person, including a particular mention of a trip that she went on a while ago. So let me see if I can find this again. And obviously, copious amounts of Google Translate are very helpful here. So if you go to the miscellaneous thing, there's a travel stories section, and then there's this article called People Who Ruin the Fun of Traveling, and she talks about her time in Chicago, and then it is dated here. Anyway, that's windy. It's called windy because Chicago is windy. That's all. Closure. Parappa the Rapper 2 is an ongoing decomp project. The artist of this game had a physical shop where he featured his art. Where was the shop going to move to before its eventual permanent closure? So this one's called Closure because the shop was closing. And this one also utilizes the Wayback Machine. And now that I'm looking at these two put together like this, I probably should have moved the other Wayback challenge a little further away chronologically in the list here. But that's the kind of thing that you don't think about until now. So when we Google the game, we can easily see the artist is Rodney Allen Greenblatt, and you can tell his shop was called the Rodney Shop. Doing some searching, but when you go to the website, it just says it's closed. We had a great run being open in Catskill from 2017 to 2020. You can probably infer that it closed around the time of COVID. But there's not much information about where the shop was going to move to. So if you go to the Rodney Shop's website on archive.org in the beginning of 2020, you can see this message that the shop will move to a new location in Leeds, New York. So Leeds is the answer, and you have to use the power of the time machine to figure this one out. Moving right along, we have Closed, which is kind of a sequel to this question. Similarly named because the shop was then closed. So the artist mentioned in Challenge Closure released a work of art that was inspired by the impact of COVID-19. What was this piece called? There are two ways to get at this answer. One is social media, and that's how I found it. And then I realized mid-competition that you need an account on either Facebook or Instagram to get at the information, which made me sad because I wanted this to not require any accounts, even though those are both free services. So I got rid of a space in COVID-19, or a dash rather, and if you search the guy's full name and COVID-19, you'll come up with this result here, Emerge and Transcend, which is the piece of art in question. You can also find this on his social media account. He talks about it pretty early on during the spread of the pandemic. So that is the answer to that one. These are kind of sad. I mean, this guy had an art shop that he seemed to really like and people seemed to really like, and then it was going to move, and then it closed, and then COVID came, and I don't know. It's kind of a bummer, and I hope he's doing well, but I just thought this was an interesting story to tell, so that's why I included it. Um, okay, Doggy. So the name of this one is because the logo of the game company in question has a dog in it, and that's all. So, what game company participated in the development of medical device WW2000? If if you search this the quote unquote right way, this one is very easy. If you don't, it's almost impossible. If you search for WW2000 in quotes, you'll find two things. One is this mention in the Kirby wiki, which I don't remember seeing in my original creation of the question. But down here, this HAL Lab article, and you might not recognize this H or the phrase HAL Lab, but this is referring to HAL Laboratory, the game company. And once you click the link, you'll see the iconic dog with the eggs logo. And yeah, their participation in the development of this medical device. So I thought that was kind of cool. I like this company, and I was just going through their press releases and thought this was kind of obscure and interesting, so I decided to make a question about it. Robort is called Robort because it's a silly way to spell robot, and this game is about rocket robot on wheels. So yeah, the designer of the game took a trip in 2023 with his wife. What is the last hotel they stayed at on the trip? Maybe a creepy sounding question, but when you see the guy that we're talking about, you'll see that he voluntarily talks about a lot of his trips, and that is one of his passions. So I think it's totally normal to ask this question. um, so yeah, you'll see it's this guy Don Munsell, if that's how you say that, and you can find out by doing a little bit of searching. If you search Don Munsell trip, you can see these links to this website Mouse Savers. So he runs a website with his wife, I think, for people who like going to Disney related like vacation trips, including like the parks and tours and other things. And there's a blog on here. Let's see, trip reports and articles. So yeah, if we're looking at the question and we're asking, he took a trip in 2023. There are two links here. If we search hotel, there's a few here. We search hotel. Yeah, and this one has like several different hotels. This is the one I intended. Did I? Yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't differentiate between these two. Um, Maybe because in this one they only stay at one hotel. I'm really not sure. But anyway, this is the article that you're supposed to read. And if you look at this part at day 5, they mention our final hotel, Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise. This is the answer, and yeah, you can just copy paste that, and there you go. All right, and we've already looked at guitar because that was how we got to love up here. So this is the Shigesato Itoi is the answer for that one. And now we're at the where it starts to get a little weird. So at the bottom here, there's this category CDF, and I put this here because I thought it looked similar to CTF, and I wanted it to be a little meta, but the D is an indicator that it's not. This isn't just like, I don't know, honestly. The three things here are C, D, and F, but they're not even in that order. So it's just kind of weird, but let's move on to F. Someone or something seemed to get access to the site. I don't even specify this site, but access to the site and added something strange somewhere. What did they add? So there's not that many pages on this website, assuming that you think we're talking about this one, which we are. But if you look at the rules, you'll notice the F here is a link. And I wasn't sure how obvious this was, but I think it's actually quite obvious. But Anyway, if you look at the link, the URL is just the frog emoji. So we click that, and then we get to frogs are allowed. And people had a interestingly difficult time answering this one correctly, and I don't think that's their fault. I think it's just a vague question and um, hard to hard to kind of exactly know what I'm asking for. Some people were copying the text inside of here. Some people were saying that I was the one who added the thing, which is true technically. But yeah, the answer is just this full text of this full string of text, including the two frog emojis. And I will explain why these are named what they are in a little bit. But let's move on to D. This one is a bit more out there. So we have these two images, and the question is, what technique was applied to turn this image into this one? And if you don't know much about image editing and stuff, you're kind of going to need to search for like effects that add edges to things. You might come across this idea of edge detection. And if you go to the Wikipedia article for edge detection, let's see here. There's a ton of different edge detection algorithms and techniques, and not all of these are even used to like create to do image filtering. They're also used in machine learning and things like that. But people were guessing all sorts of things. There's like blob detection, Laplacian of Gaussian, determinant of Hessian. The answer is difference of Gaussians, and that's the exact filter I used in GIMP specifically to get this effect. Although I'm sure some of these other techniques can yield a very similar effect, if not exactly the same. But the specific one that I'm looking for is this one, and there's a reason for that. So let's bookmark that and move on to the other challenge that appears, C, which C only unlocks after you beat Alien. So C is let A be the 7-digit hash from Alien. What is the formula for the entry with the ID of A minus 26 million or 2.6 million? 26 million? Can't do numbers. That's 2.6 million. Okay. Yeah, this is worded very weirdly, and I wanted it to be not easy to understand. So on one hand, it's like kind of annoying when you see this and you're like, what is this even asking? I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. But on the other hand, if I make it too easy to understand, then it's too easy. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about the design of this one. These last three CDF questions were like toward the end of my design. I just wanted to be done, and like I was excited for this event, and I wanted to like have some big grand finale. So I thought doing some things that were out of the box would be cool, but I was also kind of tired and just wanted to get it over with. So that's what I came up with. But I found something really neat, I think. So I'm actually happy with how this turned out. So the 7-digit hash from Alien is 6669666. And if we put that in for A and we subtract 2.6 million, then we get this number 4069666. So what is the formula for the entry with the ID of 4069666? So what we're saying is that there's some ID, which is, I'll just use this as a little note device for a second. ID is this. And we're saying that somewhere there's some entry with this ID and there's an associated formula. I didn't realize this, but if you just Google this ID plus formula, the answer is right here. And in fact, you don't even have to click the result. It's in the preview. So here's the formula for entry 4069666. Now I'm going to click this so you can see something. This is the Crystallography Open Database, and their logo spells COD. So now we have C, D, and F. And you might not have made the connection, or you might have, but F is about frogs. D was difference of Gaussians, so dog. And then C is cod, crystallography open database. The challenge is called Cod Dog, and this community, at least the decomp.me Discord where I hosted this challenge, we have a lot of frog emojis because our logo for decomp.me is a frog. So yeah, I also just like frogs, and there's not much there's not much deeper meaning there, but these C, D, and F are cod, dog, and frog. That's what they represent. So once you've solved C, D, and F, finally we get the finale question. X, F subject singular, so frog. Z is the acronym of the answer to D plural, so dogs. And then Y is what C is a type of. The acronym of the organization used in C. So the acronym is COD, and then what C is a type of, cod is a type of fish. If we put those together, we get frog, cod, dogs. Then it says, use a resource from an earlier challenge. What is the nearest train station to frog.cod.dogs? If we go back to what three words, let me put this in. Oh, sorry, frog, fish, dogs. I forgot my own question. We get to a place in Western Australia. We zoom out a bit, and we have Murdoch train station. We are right at a giant intersection here. And sure enough, Murdoch is the answer for the finale question. So yeah, that is everything. The last thing I want to say is thanks again to everyone who helped giving me emotional support while I sat in silence coming up with these. Thank you to everyone who tried this and answered questions. Thank you also to those who gave me feedback, both positive and critical, for next time. I do want to do this again, and I think next time I want to involve at least one more person. If you're interested in working with me on the next CTF that I'd like to make, please reach out. I'd love to have a partner collaborator on this, and I had a blast. Happy holidays, everyone, and thank you for watching. If you got this far, appreciate it, and see you later. Bye bye.